Nobody asked for this matchup. A brand new mid-engine Corvette C8, 495 horsepower, one of the most talked about launch control systems in the automotive world right now, lined up against the Dodge Demon, a car that was literally banned from the NHRA. A car that comes with a front passenger seat as an optional extra because the manufacturer assumed you'd remove it for drag racing. A car that makes 808 horsepower on pump gas, and 840 if you feed it race fuel. On paper, this shouldn't be a contest, but that's exactly why we're here. This is a strange pairing, and honestly, we knew that going in. But sometimes the most interesting matchups aren't the ones that make sense on paper. They're the ones where one car has absolutely no business being competitive, and then you find out whether that's actually true. The Dodge Demon is the king of the drag strip. Not just figuratively, literally. It was purpose-built to dominate the quarter mile. Every single decision made in its development, from the massive 2.7-liter supercharger sitting on top of its 6.2-liter Hemi V8, to the skinny front tires designed to reduce rolling resistance off the line, was made with one goal: go faster in a straight line than anything else wearing a license plate. The Corvette C8 is something else entirely. It's new. It's mid-engine, a first for the production Corvette in its nearly 70-year history. It's not marketed as a drag car. It's not built to embarrass demons at the strip. But it has a launch control system that people have been raving about since the car launched, and we wanted to find out if the hype is real. Here's the honest math. The Demon has 313 more horsepower than the Corvette. Both cars send power only to the rear wheels. The Demon weighs more, but it also has significantly more grunt to compensate. And we're on an untreated airstrip, not a prepped drag surface, which means traction is going to be the story of the day. The only way the Corvette wins this is if that launch control is as good as everyone says it is. And the only way the Demon loses is if those 808 horses can't find grip on a surface that wasn't designed for them. Let's find out. Let's start with the car that arrived to this airstrip already having won the psychological battle, the Dodge Demon. This car does not apologize for what it is. Everything about the exterior communicates one singular message. I was built to go fast in a straight line, and I do not care what you think about it. The front end is wide and imposing, that massive hood scoop, and we're not talking about a decorative piece here, is a functional air grabber intake that opens up to feed cold, dense air directly into that supercharger underneath. On a hot day, this matters enormously. On any day, it looks absolutely menacing. The body itself is broad and muscular. The wide body fenders flare out to accommodate the wide rear tires that give this car its launch day grip. And yet, despite its size and its aggression, there's something almost old-school noble about the Demon's shape. It's a direct descendant of American drag racing culture. It looks like a trophy and a weapon simultaneously. The rear is planted and wide, with the exhaust note promising exactly what the hood scoop suggests. And those skinny front tires? They're not a mistake. They're a feature. Less frontal rolling resistance means more of that 808 horsepower actually propels the car forward instead of rotating tires against the ground. The Demon is not subtle. It is not trying to be. And in that honesty, it is genuinely beautiful. And then there's the C8. If the Demon arrived to this drag strip like a heavyweight boxer, all width and mass and presence, then the Corvette arrived like a fighter jet that accidentally pulled into the wrong venue. The C8 is low, aggressively, almost shockingly low. The roofline barely clears your shoulder. The front end is wide and aerodynamically shaped, with intakes that feed the mid-mounted engine behind the passenger compartment. The headlights are narrow and sharp. They look like they're squinting at the competition. The body lines are clean and taut. There's real aerodynamic thought behind every surface. This isn't styling for styling's sake. The side vents behind the doors feed air to the engine. The rear diffuser and spoiler manage airflow to keep the car planted at speed. Even the engine cover, visible through the rear glass, is functional, with venting designed to extract heat from the engine bay. This Z51 package adds a front splitter, an underbody aerodynamic kit, and performance-tuned cooling that makes the whole package more capable at higher speeds. The Corvette looks exotic. Not American exotic, European supercar exotic. People stop walking when this thing drives by, not because they recognize it as a Corvette, but because it looks like something that belongs on a race circuit in Monaco. The fact that it's competing on a drag strip in an airstrip against a Dodge Demon only makes it more interesting. These two cars couldn't look more different, and they couldn't have more different philosophies. That's exactly why this test is worth running. Climb into the Dodge Demon and you understand immediately what this car is about. It's comfortable, it's wide, it has real usable space. The interior is well appointed for a performance car. Good materials, a functional layout, and Uconnect infotainment that remains one of the better systems in the American performance space. But the real technology story in the Demon isn't the screen. It's the drivetrain modes. Drag mode changes the transmission mapping, stiffens the suspension, optimizes the torque converter, and prepares every system in the car for maximum straight-line acceleration. There's also a trans-brake feature, a system borrowed directly from professional drag racing that holds the car against full engine load before launch, then releases it with maximum mechanical force. On a prepped surface, with drag radials and the full 840 horsepower race fuel setup, the Demon has run the quarter mile in the mid-9s. That is a number that used to belong exclusively to purpose-built race cars. Today, though, pump gas, untreated surface, no drag tires. Which means the challenge isn't making power, it's putting that power to the ground. Step into the C8 and the experience is completely different. The Corvette's cabin is genuinely stunning for the price. The center stack is angled toward the driver. The seats are low and supportive. The digital gauge cluster is configurable and clear. The materials throughout feel premium. This is a car you'd be happy to spend time in, even when you're not doing anything exciting. But what we're here to talk about is the technology that matters today, the launch control system. And this is where the C8 has been generating serious buzz. The system is sophisticated. It manages torque output, wheel slip, and throttle response with a precision that previous Corvettes simply couldn't match. In our experience, and in the experience of almost everyone who's tested this car seriously, the launch control works. It works remarkably well, consistently, predictably, on surfaces that would punish a less intelligent system. The question today is whether it can work well enough to overcome a 313 horsepower deficit against one of the most purpose-built drag cars ever sold to the public. All right, let's set the table. The Dodge Demon's 6.2-liter supercharged Hemi V8, paired with a 2.7-liter supercharger, produces 808 horsepower on 94-octane pump gas. Now, if you're running race fuel, that number climbs to 840. But today, we're on pump gas. And honestly, 808 horsepower is still 808 horsepower. The Corvette C8's 6.2-liter LT2 V8 in Z51 configuration makes 495 horsepower. No supercharger, no forced induction at all. It's naturally aspirated, mid-mounted, and depending entirely on driver aids and some really clever chassis engineering to compete. The power gap? It's just enormous. But the technology gap? Well, that's actually in the Corvette's favor. So the question is, which gap is going to matter more today? The Demon driver, Thomas, gets everything set up in drag mode. Traction set to drag, suspension set to drag, steering set to drag, launch control engaged. He's going to have to feather the throttle on launch because, let's be real, 808 horsepower on cold, untreated asphalt is basically a controlled explosion, just looking for somewhere to go. The Corvette, James, he's counting on that launch control system and putting absolute faith in the engineers who designed it. 495 horsepower. mid-engine traction advantage. And honestly, just hoping that consistent, clean launches can close a gap that mathematically shouldn't even be close. First launch. The Demon takes off, and those rear tires immediately light up. Not just a little, but a lot. That's what happens when 808 horsepower meets cold, untreated asphalt. Physics takes over wheel spin, drama, and lost time. Meanwhile, the Corvette launches totally clean. The launch control system does exactly what it's supposed to do. Modulates power, manages slip, finds grip. The C8 hooks up and just goes. And for a moment, just a moment, the Corvette is actually ahead of the Demon. But yeah, the Demon recovers. Of course it does. 808 horsepower always finds a way to come back. Once those tires finally get some grip and the power starts transferring to the ground, the Demon starts pulling and keeps pulling. That gap the Corvette built off the line, it starts to shrink. By the end of the run, the Demon wins. But honestly, not by the margin you'd expect, given the power difference. The Corvette really gave it a genuine race. That launch control system delivered exactly what it promised. But here's where things get really interesting. To take away the traction advantage the Corvette had with its cleaner launch, we set up for a rolling start. Both cars already at speed, and when the signal hits, it's full throttle. This time, launch control doesn't matter at all. This is just pure power, pure straight line thrust, no traction gains. And when raw power is the only thing that counts, the Demon just walks away. Clean, decisive, and honestly, not even close. From a rolling start, the gap between 808 horsepower and 495 horsepower is just too big for driving skill or chassis engineering to make up. The Demon pulls away with the kind of authority that absolutely reminds you why it was built in the first place. That supercharger starts to really scream, the power just keeps building, and the Corvette, even doing everything right, just can't keep up. The Demon wins the rolling race, and yeah, it's not close. Okay, so here's what today actually taught us. And honestly, it's more interesting than just saying the more powerful car won. Let's talk about the Demon first. The greatest trick the Demon ever pulled was convincing the world it could maintain traction anywhere. But it can't. Not on an untreated surface, not with pump gas, not without the full race day setup. 808 horsepower without prep is 808 horsepower just begging for grip it isn't getting. The Demon really needs the right conditions to be the monster it's known for. Give it a prepped strip, drag radials, and race fuel? The conversation is completely different. Today's conditions, though, robbed it of everything that makes it unstoppable. Now, about the Corvette, the C8's launch control system is as good as advertised. Seriously, on a standing start against a car with 313 more horsepower on an untreated surface, it was competitive. It actually built a lead off the line and gave the Demon a real race before the power gap finally closed. That's just extraordinary. The C8 has serious legs, enough that we're already thinking about what other matchups make sense for it. Because honestly, a car that can launch control its way to competitiveness against the Dodge Demon deserves more tests. The rolling start told the honest story of the power difference. The standing start told the honest story of how good the Corvette's technology is. Both results are true. Both are worth knowing. All right, let's break it down. Pros and cons, side by side. For the Dodge Demon, the pros: 808 horsepower on pump gas, 840 on race fuel. These are numbers that used to be reserved for purpose-built race cars. The trans brake system is borrowed directly from professional drag racing. There are drag-specific modes for transmission, suspension, and steering. Plus, it's got a spacious, comfortable, and honestly pretty livable interior for what it is. And that supercharger whine? It's one of the greatest sounds in automotive history. On a prepped surface with drag radials, this thing is essentially unbeatable among street-legal vehicles. But the cons, it absolutely requires the right conditions to perform. Cold, untreated surfaces expose its traction limitations immediately. It's heavy. All that muscle and hardware comes with significant weight. It's not a balanced performance car. This thing is designed for one discipline and one discipline only. And on pump gas, on a cold, untreated strip, it can actually be beaten off the line by a much less powerful car with better launch technology. Now, for the Chevy Corvette C8, the pros. The launch control system is genuinely world-class, one of the best in production cars at any price. Its mid-engine layout provides natural traction advantages off the line. It looks and feels like a European exotic at a fraction of the price. The interior is sophisticated and premium, punching way above its class. It has serious straight-line performance despite the power deficit, as we saw today. And it's more balanced and versatile than the Demon. It can track, drag, and tour. But the cons. It's got 313 horsepower less than the Demon. In a rolling race, the gap is real, and it shows. It's not designed specifically for drag racing. The Demon was built for exactly this. On a prepped surface with drag radials, the power gap would be even more decisive. And honestly, the launch control advantage disappears entirely in a rolling start scenario. So, who are these cars really for? These two cars exist in completely different universes, and, let's be real, the person who buys one is almost certainly not the person who buys the other. The Dodge Demon is for the collector, the drag racing enthusiast, the person who wants to own a piece of automotive history, because that's genuinely what this car is. Production numbers were limited. Performance credentials are unmatched among street-legal vehicles. If your idea of a perfect Saturday involves a prepped drag strip, a timing slip, and the smell of race fuel, the Demon was made for you. It's singular in its purpose and extraordinary at achieving it. The Corvette C8, on the other hand, is for the driver who wants everything: track performance, road presence, daily usability. A car that turns heads like an exotic, drives like a sports car, and launches like something that has no business being as fast as it is. The C8 is the complete performance package, and the fact that its launch control can give a Dodge Demon a real race off the line tells you everything you need to know about just how sophisticated this new generation of Corvette really is. These aren't competing products. They're different answers to different questions. The Demon answers, how fast can a street-legal car go in a straight line? The Corvette answers, how much performance can you get for the money across every dimension? Both answers are impressive. Both cars deserve respect. So, what did today prove? It proved that the Dodge Demon is still the king of the drag strip when it has the conditions it needs. On a prepped surface with the right fuel, with proper drag tires, there is nothing on the road that touches it. But today's conditions weren't those conditions, and the Demon's traction limitations really showed. It also proved that the Corvette C8 is something genuinely special. A car that launched hard enough and consistently enough to give 808 horsepower a real race off the line, on a street surface, in real-world conditions, is not a normal car. The C8 has legs. Serious, long, impressive legs. And honestly, we're not done testing it. The rolling start told us what physics says. More power wins in a straight line when traction isn't the variable. The standing start told us what engineering can do, and the engineers at Chevrolet built something remarkable. The Demon wins today, but the Corvette made it earn it. And honestly, that might be the most interesting result of all. Now, I want to hear from you. Did the C8 surprise you? Do you think on a prepped strip with drag radials the Demon runs away with it? Or does the Corvette's launch control keep it close? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one and I genuinely want to know what you think. If this video was worth your time, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got more matchups coming for the C8, because after today, this car has earned the right to face some more competition. You do not want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching. Stay fast.